Okay. All right. Hopefully it'll work, IT department. All right. So let's see here. There we go. Okay. I think I fixed it, so it shouldn't have the weird boxes. Okay.
Right. Okay.
All right. So we are in week 4, right? Mahele Eha. Eha is 4. And Kaho'omaka Ana, right? So those of you who are in Olelo, Hawaii, can someone please tell me what the word Ho'omaka means? What does Ho'omaka mean? You can type it in the chat or you can say it. Mema, what is it?
Like to pay close attention.
That's Maka'ala, Myrna.
Oh.
Ho'omaka.
Mema.
Like to see with your eyes, like to pay attention.
No.
Oh, almost. Okay, wait. Sorry, someone put something in the chat, I think, but I can't see the chat. Where's my chat? Awkward.
I said to see.
Maka is your eye.
Oh, sorry, Auntie Steffi. I'll watch the chat. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I tried to click it and I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Sorry.
I was
I'm
like,
a little
okay.
drowsy. I was taking Benadryl for 2 weeks. No,
Yeah.
Maybe eyes. Okay, no, maka means eyes. Yes.
But we're talking about ho'omaka. Okay? Ho'omaka. Ho means it's an action.
I ho'omaka ekala. Or well, it's not ho'omaka, but ho'omaka. Like ho'omaka, Auntie says ho'omaka.
Uh-oh, that might have to be out there next Lisa.
When Mema's ready to hold pa, I say, okay, Mema, ho'omaka.
What does that mean?
Beginning or to beginning, but it means to begin because it's ho'omaka.
It's an action,
or
right?
Start. Yes, Haley. There you go. Start.
Yeah. Right. So it's kind of like right. So it's how we started, right? So this week we're going to talk about like the origins, right? Originally the word was origins, but it's more like how did we start, right? How did the people start? So our theme this week is Kaho'omaka Ana. Okay. Hopefully everyone wrote down the word ho'omaka, right? I should see people with pens and pencils in their hand writing down on a piece of paper, and I don't see that happening.
Or in their halo notebook.
Yeah. Like I still see people sitting down, playing with their hair, and just messing around without a pen or pencil in their hand. Yeah. Ho'omaka, right? Ho'omaka means to start. Okay. And then if you look over here, 20, right? So Iwakalua is 20. Iwakalua o Iulai. We are in the month of July. Yep. Today we're going to talk about Hawaii's origins from a geological and historical perspective. Okay, so that's today's theme. Yes, Nicholas.
Why in Hawaii? Why is there like that comma or like that, like the indentation? Because like cuts for like AWAI, and then there's a comma I. Why is that?
Oh, the Okina?
Yeah.
So the Okina is actually a letter in the Hawaiian alphabet. And it's like, they call it a glottal stop, right? Because you can't have two of the same vowel next to each other. Well, that's kind of like our rule, right? And so what it does is it kind of breaks it up. That's why actually it's Hawaii.
Oh, I see.
Because the Okina breaks it up, right? Instead of Hawaii, most people will say Hawaii, right? The Okina actually makes it Hawaii. It breaks it up, right?
Okay.
Same thing for Ho'omaka, right? Instead of Ho'omaka, it's going to be Ho'omaka.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yes. And so for those of you who said there's 12 letters in the Hawaiian alphabet, there's 13 because the Okina counts as one. Okay? All right. So before we begin, our friends, let's see. On Friday, we had some guest speakers. And actually, I emailed Auntie Heather because I needed something else. I asked her because she's going to help me with my project. But she also said that you guys were a very awesome group of students. And the girls were just like so excited and they really enjoyed hanging out with you guys. However, there are some things that Auntie Lei and I would like to go over just to make sure that we are all on the same page, because it seems like right now we're not all on the same page sometimes. Okay, so Can someone please tell us what the word kuleana means? What does the word kuleana mean? Responsibility. Thank you. So, I want everyone to write down in your journal right now or on your piece of paper. What are 3 ways we can do our kuleana in Haloa? What are 3 things you can do to do your kuleana in Haloa? Okay, I'll give you guys 1 minute to do that. Okay. So, if you're not done writing, you can keep writing. But if you're done, can someone share one thing that we can do to show responsibility while we're in Haloa? Kina?
Turn in your ha'avina.
Can you guys see as I type? Okay. Okay. Cordelia, what's another one?
Oh, sorry. You can always listen or raise your hand before you speak.
Okay. Anything else? Nicholas?
Something to add on to Kina's one. So can I turn in your? Is that the exit tickets or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your hobby are like the exit tickets. Mm-hmm.
So like turn it in and like do like your best work on it, like.
Mm-hmm.
Just work on it instead of just turning it in like best work.
Mm-hmm. You do your best work. That's a good one. Okay. Let's do a couple more. Sophia?
Come prepared with your Haloa notebook.
That's a great one. Okay, it's a great one. Anything else? Keizo?
Wait, hold on. I forgot mine. I'll come back.
Okay. No, that's okay. Yep, we can come back to you. All right. Anything else? Hoku, is that you raising your hand? Okay.
Be engaged.
Mm-hmm. So, my friends, be engaged. And see that you want to talk about this one or you want me to? I can? Okay. So, like, it's come to our attention. So if you guys noticed today when Auntie Lei started the Zoom chat, how many people can you guys chat? Click the chat button. Is there a long list of people that you can chat? There should only be 2 people you can chat. Auntie Lei and everyone. Those are the only 2 people. This is because, on the lines of being engaged, word on the curb is that we've been private chatting, especially like when we have guest speakers. We've been private chatting about random things. Does that sound like we're being engaged when that happens? Yeah, we'll come back to that on the 3rd bullet point, but yeah. So, our fault. We didn't necessarily go over that, but you guys also need to know, right? Your parent, like Auntie Lei said, your parents are paying money for you to be here, right? And all of us are here and everyone's here to learn. So be engaged. And if you're going to have your side conversations, y'all got like 20 other hours in the day to do that. I know half of you stay up till 2 in the morning anyway, right? So y'all have 20 other hours to do that. Okay. Your private chatting can happen elsewhere. Got it? Okay. Also, when you're chatting in the group chat, like, I don't need to know what your favorite color is. And I don't need to know what you had for lunch. And
we also don't need to be correcting other people or pointing out the things that you said versus somebody else said.
Yeah. So like, we're a group, right? So like if we're in person, think about like if you're in class, right? this isn't like class, but it's like a summer class. So it's a little bit different, but same expectations, okay? So staying engaged. That was a good one. Thank you. All right. So, ha'a ha'a. Can someone tell me what ha'a ha'a means?
To be humble.
To be humble. Okay, Zoe, I saw your take notes. That's a good one. And the take notes one is good because Auntie Leigh and I try our best to upload the videos, but we can't always do it. Auntie Leigh and I were also both taking a class this summer, so it was hard for us to upload it right after class. So if you take your own notes, then that might help you as well, okay? Okay, ha'a ha'a, to be humble, right? Humility. Okay. So that's kind of along the lines of what Auntie Leigh was saying, right? Like don't, I don't like using the word don't, but right? Oh, be encouraging, right? So like use positive language when talking to other people. Okay, so like if you're in school, are you gonna tell someone like, that's stupid? Why would you say that? Would any of you dare to say that in your classroom? And I sure hope the answer is no. Okay, right? Or would you call someone out in a very rude way just because it's not something that you would do? No. Okay, so when you're chatting or talking in your groups, make sure you guys are using positive language. We're not name calling anyone. We're being respectful. Okay. So all that's part of humility, right? Because are any one of us better than anyone else? No, right? There are times where the older, right? We rely on the older ones a little more, but no one's better than anyone else, okay? Also, add another thing. Oh, so I'm going to try to stop talking. But so like when you're in class, right? And you have like 25 people in your class, and then there's always the Myrna that like won't stop talking, right? There's always that one Myrna who always wants to raise her hand and always be the one who talks, and then like no one else can get a word in edgewise because she keeps talking like this, and then she keeps raising her hand, and then no one else can get a word in edgewise. Does everyone know that Myrna? Yeah, there's that Myrna in like every class. So don't be that Myrna, okay? So think about how much you're talking, right? Make sure everyone has a chance to speak. Okay, so if you were like, oh, I think I raised my hand like 5 times today, and like, I don't know, Keizo's in front of me, but I'm not calling you out, Keizo. But like, if I raise my hand 5 times and I know that Keizo hasn't spoken, and I see that Keizo has her hand up, maybe I'll let Keizo talk this time, right? Because I don't necessarily have all the answers, right? Or I want to make sure that I let our classmates also have a word in. Make sense? Coolsies. All right, last one is ho'ihi. Can someone tell me what that means? Ho'ihi. No, I don't know. Did we review these? Yeah, ho'ihi means respect. Right, so a lot of you go to schools and your schools have like the 3 R's, or respect's always up there, right? Okay, so what are some ways that we can show respect to each other, to our equipment, to our guest speakers? What are some of the ways that we can show respect? Mima?
For guest speakers, if they only have like a certain time they have to leave, probably don't waste time by asking more questions.
Or think about the questions before we ask them. Yeah. Okay, anything else, Keizo?
Don't interrupt.
Mm-hmm. I think that's how you spell it. Okay. Anything else? How do we show respect? Really? What about like to each other? How do we show respect to each other? Kina?
You can also make sure everyone has a chance to speak in ho'ihi.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's being respectful to your classmates.
Mm-hmm. That's also another time. Yep, we can also put that under ho'ihi. Nicholas?
Like raising your hand before you talk, like so you don't like raise your hand, because that's what your tutors yell at you a lot in middle school and
Yep, right. Making sure that you raise your hand so that You know, everyone will give you the respect you deserve and that you're not trying to interrupt anybody else. Good. Okay. Let's see.
Yes, Liam. Liam says, don't laugh at people if they get something wrong.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it's a great one, right? So if someone, right, we're all learning, right? We're all learning. For some of us, this is some of us have done this before and some of us haven't. So that's a really good one, right? Let's be encouraging of everyone who's learning.
Don't start rumors about people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just reading the chat. Sorry, Auntie.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you know, at this point, we're in week 4, right? Like, we're in week 4. Like, we're all kind of, at this point, one big virtual family. We've been here for 4 weeks, pretty much every day of said week. Right? So just make sure that we're being respectful. Another thing, too, friends, is with your cameras, like, trust me, dude, I get the Zoom fatigue thing. Being on a computer all day is rough. But if I'm walking around like this, can everyone see me? If I'm walking around like this, are you all going to be able to focus on what I'm saying? If I just keep walking around and like my camera is just going all over the place? Oh, I'm getting dizzy just looking at myself. Right? So if you're gonna be there, like, just keep your camera set in one space. Okay? If you have to move, you can turn it off. Okay? But the expectation is if you're off, that you're still engaging. I know that some of us just, like, that's the nature of what's happening, right? Like, we have other things going on in the background, and that's fine. But it's a little bit distracting, especially when we have the guest speakers and you're all, like, walking all over the place with your cameras, and then no one can really, like, concentrate on what's happening. Okay? Okay. Most of these are like what we've been doing. We just want to make sure, because we're about halfway through, that we're reminding, right? Just like the school year, we always have to kind of remind and make sure that we're all on the same page. Okay? Any questions or concerns? Or anything else anyone wants to add? We good? Coolsies. All right. All right. Sorry, that was longer than I wanted it to be. But, okay, moving on. Today. This picture is what we call the Pacific Ring of Fire. Okay? Has anyone talked about the Ring of Fire before in school? Yeah? Okay, some of us did? Okay. So, the Pacific Ring of Fire, okay, is, everyone see this highlighted part? All those triangles are volcanoes. Okay? So, I want everyone in your journal to write down 3 things that you notice right now. Looking at this picture of the Pacific Ring of Fire, okay, what are some things that you noticed? Okay. I'm just going to talk a little bit more while you guys are writing, just to add in. So, also, these black lines with the blue highlights, they're the different plates. So underneath our, like, at the surface of our earth, there's like the water and the land, and underneath we're on plates, right? Tectonic plates. And what happens is these arrows are showing the way those plates move. Okay? So these are the different boundaries, and it shows you which way the different plates are moving. Okay? So you've got all these volcanoes, and then you've got all of these plates. And so what are some of the things that we notice when we look at it? Does anyone need one more minute? Okay, one more minute, and then we'll go over it. All right, some of us are going to finish up typing. Does anyone want to kind of share what are some observations that we made? Kamalani, what's one observation you made?
They're all on the tip. So like it starts on the tip of South America.
Okay.
Like they're all on the tip.
So it starts at the tip of South America and it kind of comes all the way around like the edges and the tips.
Yeah.
The places. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, let's see. What else we got?
Kaliko has one. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, is it in the chat?
Yeah.
The tectonic plates are shifting different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. The tectonic plates are shifting different ways. That's a good one. Anything else? Anybody else wrote down anything? Sophia?
I don't know if this is kind of like what Kamaleni said, but all the volcanoes are on the coast of all the continents.
So if you're looking at the major continents, right, you kind of see like all of these are on like the coasts, right? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Anything else? Kina?
I noticed that all of the arrows, what are they called again?
Oh yeah, those are arrows. Yeah, they're just telling you the directions they move. Yeah.
Okay. The arrows are in the middle of the ring of fire. They're kind of pointing towards the volcanoes. Like one side is pointing toward the other side of the volcanoes, and one is pointing towards the other side.
Okay, so sometimes they're like going like toward the volcanoes, and then like they're going on each side of the volcanoes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Kina. Anything else? Okay, what about Mima?
Hawaii is kind of being surrounded by them.
So then you kind of have Hawaii, right? Hawaii's right here in the middle, right? And the interesting thing is, remember I told you guys all of these? So these are all the different boundaries between the plates, right? So if you look at all these volcanoes, right? Where are they? They're right on the different plate boundaries, yeah? But Hawaii is interesting because is Hawaii on a plate boundary? Not really, yeah? So that's something interesting. Hoku, did you have something?
Most of them are in the Pacific.
Yep, most of them are in the Pacific. Okay. So that's pretty much all that I had also. So, right, so the interesting thing, the Ring of Fire. So this is basically your Pacific Ocean. If you notice, it's the Pacific Ocean, but they're not all the Pacific plate, right? The arrows are showing you like how the plates are working, right? So this would be the plates are going in different directions. Whoop. Welcome back to that, right? And then this one is that the plates are coming toward each other, right? These two plates are coming toward each other. It just depends. But the Ring of Fire, right? All these volcanoes along the Pacific host 75% of the world's volcanic activity and 90% of the world's earthquakes. Okay, that's a lot. Right? So you think about a lot of the earthquakes and the volcanoes in the world, most of them take place in this one ocean, along the edges of this one ocean. And within it also, you see all these little ones in between also. Okay? So most volcanic activity takes place on the boundaries of the tectonic plates. So like I was saying, these are all your boundaries, okay? These are all your boundaries of the different tectonic plates. Tectonic plates have divergent boundaries, convergent boundaries, and transform boundaries. Hawaii is different because it is located on the middle of the tectonic plate, right? So if you look at all these edges, a lot of these happen because of the way that the way they come together. So divergent boundaries are the ones that spread apart. So like when I learned it in school, you basically have your divergent, right? Your plates are coming apart. You have your convergent, they're coming together. And then the transforms are the ones that slide, okay? If you guys want to take a look at more, I left an article in the slideshow, so when I upload it later today, you guys can look. But if you look up here in North America, this is us, right? St. Helens is the big one, but then we have some other ones also. These are all on a convergent boundary. So that's why they're a little bit more explosive, because you have this ocean plate. This ocean plate is a little more dense. So when they come together, one plate slides under the other. And once it slides, that's how your magma can come up. And that's why it's a little bit more explosive. Okay? Some of the divergent ones, it's a little, your volcanoes are a little nicer. They're not as explosive. Okay, so if you guys want to read more about that, I have that article in there. Okay, so we're gonna watch this quick 5-ish minute video of how did Hawaii form. It's gonna talk a little bit about this tectonic plate idea, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. Oh no, that's not what I wanted.
Hawaii sits in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and nowhere near the.
Sorry.
Hawaii sits in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and nowhere near the edge of a tectonic plate where volcanoes are usually found. So how did the island chain form with all of its volcanoes? The island chain is located over a hot spot fueled by a mantle plume of heated rock. Solid rock at the bottom of the Earth's mantle is heated by the planet's core. That hot rock slowly rises and pushes up the crust, forming a bulge. Under that bulge, some of the rock melts into magma. Magma makes its way to the surface through cracks in the crust. Once it's above ground, it's known as lava. Hawaiian volcanoes produce lava flows made of melted basalt, which is more liquid than lava produced by more explosive volcanoes like Mount St. Helens. Basaltic lava flows form volcanoes with gently sloping sides. A lake of liquid lava can sometimes be seen at the top of active volcanoes like Kilauea. Sometimes the magma can flow underground to the sides of the main vent and erupt out of cracks in the ground called fissures. When lava meets ocean, the island grows, but you may not want to get too close. That steam is hydrochloric acid laced with tiny shards of volcanic glass. The Pacific plate is moving to the northwest, dragging the crust over the hotspot and creating islands as it goes. The hotspot itself might be moving too. The volcanoes on Ni'ihau and Kauai, the northwesternmost islands in the chain, are about 5 million years old. The big island of Hawaii is the youngest and started forming about 400,000 years ago. It's still changing and is home to 4 active volcanoes. Eventually, the big island will no longer be over the hotspot, and a new island will grow next to it. But maps won't need updating for a while. Lo'ihi won't break the ocean surface for another 200,000 years, give or take. For Scientific American, I'm Kelsey Kennedy.
All right. Sorry, I didn't check my settings, so it might not have shown well. But if you're able to watch it, right? So just like Kina was saying, yeah, like she was saying in the video, right? These arrows show you the direction that the plate's moving. So that's why Hawaii, if you notice, Hawaii kind of curves, right? Into like the north. That's why it kind of curves to the top left, right? Because it's moving in that direction. So that's why the islands also form that same shape. Good. All right. So what did we get from that? I saw some people taking notes. What were some interesting things that we got out of that video? Anyone get anything? I saw some people writing.
We have Kina raising her hand.
Oh, sorry, Kina. I didn't see you. My bad. What do you got, Kina?
I thought it was cool that she said a new island might form next to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was the name of the island?
Lo'ihi.
Lo'ihi. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good one, right? Kind of cool, right? There's a new island that's gonna come. But it's not gonna break the surface for a while. Mima, sorry, did you have your hand up?
Oh, I didn't know that like from the islands from left to right were from oldest to youngest. Because I just thought they were, naturally formed. I didn't know that Mokuokeawe right now was the youngest.
Right. So like you kind of don't realize that it kind of has, it kind of tells its age, right? How far you go, right? The farther you are from the hot spot, right? So Hawaii Island, Mokuokeawe is on the hot spot right now, so it's the youngest, right? And the farther away you go, so like Ni'ihau and Kauai are the farthest away, so they're the oldest. Yeah. Kind of interesting, right? That's one of the cooler ones. Okay. Anything else? Nicholas, are you raising your hand?
Yeah, I didn't know that when the magma hits the water it actually builds off of it. I think that's what she was saying. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's why when they talk about Pele a lot, and we'll probably talk about this more tomorrow, but when they talk about Pele a lot, you know, Pele, they always talk about Pele as destruction, right? Because all the lava. But what it really does is she's building new land. That's what a lot of people say, right? That's kind of part of her thing. Is that, yeah, sometimes it seems like there's a lot of destruction happening, but when you're done, you're building all this new land space, right? So all those lava fields are new land space that you're building from the volcanoes. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else anyone got? Okay. All right. So some of the big things that I got from that, right, is that Hawaii is located over a hotspot, right? So it's not actually on a boundary, right? It's not actually on a boundary. It's on a hotspot. This little space that they showed in the middle, right? It's just like this random little hole in the crust that a volcano comes out of, which is quite interesting, okay? And the land masses or islands form as the Pacific plates, right? So it's not like the islands just popped out where they are, right? They started over the hotspot and then they shifted, right? That's how the Hawaiian Islands were geologically formed. Okay, and then like Kamalani and Kina shared, right? A new island, Lo'ihi, is starting to form and is expected to break surface in 200,000 years. So I don't think we should be expecting it anytime soon. Okay. And when we say break surface, it just means like a little part of it is going to come out of the ocean. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a big, massive land space like Mokuokeawe. It's just going to be a little island that breaks the surface in 200,000 years. Okay. All right, when you're done with your notes, you can give me a thumbs up so I can know to switch to the next slide. Okay. I'll give you guys about 30 more seconds if you're still writing, and then we'll move on. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh. So, Mima kind of brought this up already, right? So, there's 8 main Hawaiian islands. I was actually going to have you guys share that with me, but that's okay. My picture already has the names of them on there. So, if you don't know the names of all of the Hawaiian islands, I would suggest that you write this down now. It's right there for you. And sorry, as we kind of look, right? So you see, they call Hawaii Island the Big Island, right? For obvious reasons, it's big. Now, if we look at this picture, what do we kind of notice, right? What do we notice as we move through the island chain? As we start from the youngest to the oldest, what happens kind of to the size? What happens to the size of the islands as they get older? Kamani?
The older it gets, the younger it gets, the bigger it gets.
Mm-hmm. So for the most part, as we kind of move down this chain, they kind of get bigger, right? They kind of get bigger as we go. The only exception, right? Because Iha and Kauai kind of, but then you kind of get to like this Maui, Molokai, Lanai, Kaho'olawe, right? And you're like, that's kind of weird because these islands are actually smaller, right? These islands are actually smaller than like Oahu and Kauai and Niihau, right? Actually, so how many of you guys have heard of Maui County? Has anyone heard of Maui County? So in Hawaii, they call it Maui County because they basically call these 4 islands, like they group them into one thing. So like even when you look into history and like how Kamehameha conquered the islands and you thought Maui o Pi'ilani, a lot of them are based on the fact that whoever was the chief of Maui kind of also ruled all of these other smaller islands. That's correct, right, Antile? That's what I had. Right. So like normally
that is correct, yes.
Yeah. So whoever was ruling this was ruling all of these, because that's why they call it Maui County also, is because all of these islands are kind of normally grouped together. And that's because, and I researched this, yeah, you're right, I think it's the Maui part. And I kind of knew this, but then when I researched this, so what happened is they actually used to call it, well now they call it Maui County, but it used to be called Maui Nui. Okay, so this big picture 1.2 million years ago, were all 4 islands kind of joined together. okay? And then over time, as you have like glacial melt, right? So as the big chunks of ice, which is kind of what we're going through right now, as the big chunks of ice melt, your sea levels rise. And once that happens, it kind of starts to take away some of the land masses. And so over time, right? So about 0.6 million years ago, Molokai kind of became its own thing, right? Then about 0.4 million years ago, right? Then you had Lanai, and then 0.2 years ago, we kind of had Kaho'olawe. And then as time went on, Kaho'olawe actually got smaller because of the rising sea levels. So if people ever refer to Maui Nui, they're referring to all 4 islands because they used to all be one big landmass. The only reason why is because of the seafloor rising that they are now 4 separate islands. Yes, Nicholas, kind of like a Pangea. That's kind of the theme.
What was it called?
Kind of like a Pangea, and then they all have separate spaces. Yeah. Any questions about this? I just added this tidbit because I thought it was cool.
That's why they say Maui Nui a Kama. Because Kama is actually Molokai. So Maui Nui a Kama was because all 4 of these islands are united, yeah.
Kina, sorry, what did you say? Something about the shape, yeah? So the shape of Maui was an accident. Kind of, right? Because it kind of was just how like where their deepest valleys were when the sea level rose. It kind of just flooded those areas, right? And then your highest levels are what kind of stays above the ocean floor. So yeah, in the end, these shapes were kind of by accident. If you think about it from a geological perspective, we'll talk about it from the story perspective later, but from the geological perspective, yes, most of these shapes are by accident. All right. Okay. So really quickly, we're gonna just watch this really quick video about how Kanaka and Maoli settled in Hawaii, but it's also just talking about like how the Pacific Islanders kind of would navigate, and the Micronesians and the Melanesians. So like it says here, right, this video is mainly from the Hawaiian point of view, okay? I do want to disclaimer that and tell you that this practice was done by pretty much all the Polynesians, all the Micronesians, and all the Melanesians. So it's going to make it sound like in this video that it was just the Hawaiians, which is not the case. But it's kind of a cool way to show how like they actually did it, because I know a lot of us watch Moana, right? And then that's kind of what they do. But this kind of gives you a deeper look into kind of how they did it and how they were able to go from place to place. So we'll do this one really quickly. And then we'll move on.
Imagine setting sail from Hawaii in a canoe. Your target is a small island thousands of kilometers away in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That's a body of water that covers more than 160 million square kilometers, greater than all the land masses on Earth combined. For thousands of years, Polynesian navigators managed voyages like this without the help of modern navigational aids. Ancient Polynesians used the sun, moon, stars, planets, ocean currents, and clouds as guides that allowed them to see the ocean as a series of pathways rather than an obstacle. Their voyages began around 1500 BC, when the people who would settle Polynesia first set sail from Southeast Asia. Early Polynesians eventually settled a vast area of islands spread over 40 million square kilometers of the Pacific Ocean. Some historians believe the voyagers moved from place to place to avoid overpopulation, others that they were driven by war. Voyages became less frequent by around 1300 AD, as Polynesian societies became more rooted in specific locations. During the voyaging period, successful journeys depended on a number of factors, well-built canoes, the skill of navigators, and weather being some of the biggest. Voyages relied on sturdy va'akalua, or double-hulled canoes, which were powered by sails and steered with a single large oar. Canoe building involved the whole community, bringing together the navigators, canoe builders, priests, chanters, and hula dancers. Navigators were keen observers of the natural world. They were abundantly familiar with trade wind-generated ocean swells, which typically flow northeast or southeast. By day, navigators could identify direction by the rocking motion of their canoes caused by these swells. But sunrise and sunset were even more useful. The sun's position indicated east and west and created low light on the ocean that made it possible to see swells directly. At night, navigators used something called a star compass, which wasn't a physical object, but rather a sort of mental map. They memorized the rising and setting points of stars and constellations at different times of the year. They used those to divide the sky into 4 quadrants, subdivided into 32 houses, with the canoe in the middle. So, for example, when they saw the star Pura Atea rising from the ocean, they knew that to be northeast. They had some other tricks too. The Earth's axis points towards Hokupa'a, or the North Star, so called because it's the one fixed point in the sky as the Earth rotates, and always indicates north. However, it's not visible south of the equator, so navigators there could use a constellation called Neve, or the Southern Cross, and some mental tricks to estimate where south is. For instance, draw a line through these 2 stars, extend it 4.5 times, and draw another line from there to the horizon. That's south. But the sky also contains navigational aids much closer to Earth, the clouds. Besides being useful weather cues, under the right conditions, they can indicate land masses. For instance, the lagoons of Pacific atolls can actually be seen reflected on the underside of clouds, if you know what to look for. And high masses of clouds can indicate mountainous islands. Once navigators neared their destination, other clues such as the flight patterns of birds, floating debris or vegetation, and types of fish in the area helped determine the proximity of land. For example, the Manuoku had a known flight range of 190 kilometers and could be followed back to shore. So how do we know all of this? Partially through evidence in petroglyphs, written observations of European explorers, and Polynesian oral traditions, but also by trying them out for ourselves. In 2017, a voyaging canoe called Hokulea completed a worldwide voyage using only these techniques. If that seems remarkable, remember the ancient Polynesians, who through close study and kinship with nature were able to forge these paths across an unfathomably vast, vibrant, living ocean. The educator behind this lesson helped TED-Ed's student voice program find its way to Hawaii. Over 30 TED-Ed clubs have since formed in the Hawaiian island.
All right. So, funny story. Auntie Steffi showed this to Uncle John because I was like, oh, you should watch this. It's super cool. And the guy who made the video was his old principal from when he was in school. The guy who made this video. So this was made in Hawaii, yeah. And so that's why it's really based in like the Hawaiian words and like the Hawaiian like culture. But if you kind of look around, most of it was through, they did the different cultures. So most of them do it, yeah. So now you guys know the secrets behind what Moana was actually doing when they were doing the movie. Similar stuff. Okay, so yeah, so I'm in the map in the video, yeah. So all of the others weren't formed. Right, so in the video, right, good observation, Kinas, right? So like in the video, it would kind of mean that they might have still been one of their big islands, yeah. So it still would have been Maui, but like it might have been Maui and Molokai, but maybe not the smaller islands yet. But yeah, so the main thing to get out of this was that it was a practice of all of these cultures, right? All of your Pacific cultures, and that most of them rooted themselves around 1300. They were kind of going between all of them before that, but they really started to settle around 1300. And Hawaii was a little bit different because it's so far away. right? Like if you think about all the other Pacific island or Polynesian islands, they're all kind of clustered right at that bottom side. So it was a little easier to travel between them. Hawaii was a little farther, right? So to travel there was a little bit different and probably wouldn't have as much like transitioning between the two. Like you can't move around as easily. But moving on. Okay. So when did Kanaka Maoli, right? So we just did how did they get there, now we're doing when. Okay, at what point? So there's two possibilities. In both cases, they're from the Marquesas Islands. If anyone's wondering, the Marquesas Islands are in French Polynesia near Tahiti. Not exactly Tahiti, but near it. The first possibility is that they landed on Waimea, Kauai between 300 and 600 Common Era. So that's about 1,500 years ago. And then the second possibility is that they landed in Hawaii Island around 400. So again, about 1,600 years ago. And the current theory is that they both came from the Marquesas Islands. In 1100 Common Era, so about 500 years after that, everyone should be writing down this name, Pa'ao. P-A-Pahako Okina-e-o. So Pa'ao and Pili travel from Tahiti, Samoa, or Tonga. So depending on the story, they come from one of these three places. The most common two are Tahiti or Samoa. But there's like this whole story behind how Pa'ao was kind of in a feud with his brother and kind of, I don't know if he got banished or wanted to leave. So basically Pa'ao traveled from either Tahiti or Samoa and came to Hawaii Island, Mokuokeawe, and he built the first heiau. Okay, this was a big turning point for our first settlers because once this first heiau was built, he laid the foundation for the kapu system, which was the basis of the ancient Hawaiian religion, laws, code of conduct. Basically, this started the Hawaiian way of life that we talk about today, the ancient Hawaiian way of life that we talk about today. So in 1100, that was kind of the big turning point for them. Okay. I'll give you guys a little bit more time to write. It is also very possible that they did not interact for a while, especially if one landed in Waimea and one landed on Hawaii Island. It's very unlikely that they could have probably crossed paths that early also. Okay. Any questions or anything before we move on? All right. Thumbs up if I can switch the slide. Okay. Sweet. All right. So I tried to keep it short because there was a lot of me talking at you guys today. So there's a couple of things that you guys will do tomorrow. So today was kind of a lot of like the sciencey stuff, right? So today was a lot of the geological perspective, a lot of the historical research perspective. Kind of wanted to give you guys that background before we move into like our creation stories, okay? So tomorrow we're going to talk about Pele and Maui. So I would write this down real quick. Those two are going to be the gods or demigods that we look at tomorrow, okay? 3 questions. We need you to figure out who are they, okay? Why are they important to Hawaiian culture? Or like what are some of the things they did? Like if you listen to the stories, Auntie Louise gave you guys a story last week about Maui. What did Maui do? She told you a story. That's one of them. He has a lot of stories. And do they appear in other cultures? Okay, so mainly I'm thinking, does like Maui appear in other Polynesian cultures? Does Pele appear in other Polynesian cultures? But it's very possible if you do your research that they come up in like other like Micronesian, Melanesian, Asian, maybe even some like indigenous Native American cultures, without the same name but the same concept. If you guys could look that up. And then once you do that first, because there's going to be those questions in your exit ticket. Okay. So that's what's going to happen there. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. So I will upload this. I'll upload this slides. I can do that right now, actually, or not right now, but like right after this class, I'll do that. And then the Google form will be there. It's just gonna ask you like, what's one new thing? Because a bunch of you showed us some cool new things you learned, and then just some like review questions that you can get from either watching the videos again or from looking at the slideshow. So all of that should be answered. And that's all I have for today. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Try to keep it short and sweet today. Okay. All right. Cool. So tomorrow, what are we all going to come with? Nicholas, what do you come with?
Research on Pele and Maui.
Your research on Pele and Maui. That's going to be our basis to start tomorrow's class. Okay. What else? We talked about Kuleana today, right? What are you going to come with? What are you going to come with? Mia?
Pencil and a notebook.
Pencil in your notebook. Okay. Kina, what else?
Positivity.
Positivity. I love it. Mima?
Your Ha'avina turned in.
Your Ha'avina turned in. Okay. Anything else? All right. So those 4 things, make sure that we have them ready to go. And yeah, this week we're going to do origins. So we're going to talk a little bit about Maui and Pele tomorrow. And today's going to kind of take that one. On Wednesday, we're going to talk about Mokuhonu, which is actually the land we are on right now. We're going to talk about Mokuhonu and how that came to be. Auntie Louise shared some stories with us, as did Auntie Selena. So we're going to go over some of that. That'll be your homework tomorrow. Thursday, we're going to go over the Kumulipo. Ashley gave us some resources on like creation stories from across the Pacific. So really what we're going to do this week is we're going to take a look at all these different cultures and what their creation stories are and how does that kind of relate, right? How does that work? And does it relate to this geological perspective that we kind of just looked at, or are there stories based in something else? So that's kind of this week in a nutshell. And then Friday we're going to do Papa and Wakea, which is going to lead to Haloa, because next week we're going to do sustainable practices. And I know that some families have kalo in their yards, so we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit next week. Okay? All right.
Noi and Mia, I know you guys weren't here. I don't know if you guys are here for this assignment, but everybody, they found the notebook and they had to create on their cover. Does anybody have their notebook right in front of them? Yeah, go ahead, Kina, show them.
Everybody just put it on your screen if you have it.
Yeah, just put your notebook into your screen.
Yeah.
And you had to decorate your notebook with like about Haloa, things that describe who you are, what represent you, and decorate and you don't have to do the whole thing all at once, but every week you can add something. So like the first week we did Ohe Kapala, so a lot of them put their Ohe Kapala. Last week we learned things about Native Americans, so people added more of that. People added things that represent themselves. So can you folks do you guys have a notebook that you can do that at home? Yeah, so you guys, okay, good. Because we want that's your notebook that everything can go in. Okay?
It's okay, Liam. You can just add to it this week, bud. You're good.
Yeah, just keep, Yep. Yes, Liam. And Haley, you did do yours, right? Okay, perfect, yeah. Yeah, just add to it if you guys can do that. Because by the end of Haloa, there shouldn't be any blank spaces on your cover. You guys should have learned a lot by then. Got it, yeah.
If we were to, I normally do notebook checks in my classroom. So if I were to do a notebook check, I should at least see like at least 2 or 3 pages of notes in there by now. Based on all our guest speakers, all the things we've talked about, all the things. If you're writing it on random scrap pieces of paper, I would suggest you glue that into your notebook or put it into your folder somewhere, okay? Because the goal is that by the end of this, you're gonna have so much information that you guys can go out and teach other people. And there may or may not be a project on week 7, so you may or may not need all the information that we're giving you. So, you know, just throwing that out there.
And Auntie Louise gave a great, like, if you can't like write words and take notes, draw pictures like that remind you of what you're seeing. Like, I thought that was excellent.
I know. I didn't even think of that.
So like, just draw what you see. If you can't put into words, just draw it out.
I know. We love Auntie Louise too. She's the best.
Love her.
All right, y'all. Okay, short class today. But make sure you guys get those exit tickets done. Make sure you guys do your